ever joined those Facebook groups? You know, the ones, well, imagine one that says it supports your favorite candidate, but it's actually like designed to like undermine them.
Oh, wow.
That's what we're diving into today.
Okay.
It's this whole world of bait and switch Facebook groups.
Interesting.
And how they're trying to sway voters in the 2024 U.S. election.
Okay.
We're looking at this article from Channel News Asia.
Yeah.
It's called Deceptive Bait and Switch Facebook Groups Snare U.S. Voters. Study.
Yeah.
It was published November 1st, 2024.
Got it.
Get ready to have your mind blown.
Okay.
This is some seriously shady stuff happening right under our noses.
But like what's fascinating about this is how these groups exploit our trust in online communities.
Right.
Like we join these groups to connect with like-minded people.
Yeah.
And we tend to let our guard down a bit.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah, we're more likely to accept information, even if it's a bit iffy.
Yeah.
If it's coming from people who we think share our values.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what makes these bait and switch groups so effective.
Yeah.
They create this illusion of like shared beliefs.
Right.
Which makes members more susceptible to the misinformation.
Okay, so let's like break down how this bait and switch tactic works. What's going on here?
So basically the core tactic is they create a group that appears to be a fan page for a candidate.
Right.
But then fill it with content that's designed to like undermine them.
Wow.
Or promote their opponent.
Okay.
The study we're looking at focuses on groups targeting Kamala Harris.
Okay.
But this tactic can be used against anyone.
So it's like walking into a store and you think you're getting a brand name product.
Right.
But then you get home and it's like a cheap knockoff.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And the study highlights some like pretty shocking examples.
Yeah.
There was this one group claiming to be for Kamala Harris fan, but they had this post with a picture of a woman darkening her skin, mocking Harris's racial identity.
Really?
And the caption directly echoed those false claims Trump made about Harris, saying that she was like turning black to get votes.
So these groups are like intentionally misleading people.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up.
Yeah, that's really messed up.
And it's not just limited to racist attacks.
Oh, okay.
They also found a Democratic Voices group that was actually posting Make America Great Again content.
What?
And promoting Charlie Kirk, who's a pro-Trump influencer.
So they're not just attacking a candidate, they're actually promoting their opponent under the guise of supporting a different party.
Yeah, it's really sneaky.
That's so sneaky.
This is like a classic example of confirmation bias.
Okay.
When we see information that confirms our existing beliefs, even if it's misleading, we're more likely to just accept it.
Got it.
Without questioning it.
Yeah.
And these groups are using that to their advantage.
Right.
They're tapping into people's existing prejudices and amplifying them within these like seemingly safe and familiar spaces.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And here's where it gets even more complicated.
Okay.
The study found that a lot of these groups weren't run by organized campaigns.
Wow.
They were actually run by individuals.
Right.
Some even outside the U.S.
So anyone could be behind these groups.
Yeah, that's kind of scary.
That is kind of scary.
And it makes it much harder to track and regulate.
Right.
Because it's like
playing whack-a-mole with misinformation.
Totally. One group gets shut down, another one pops up
Yeah.
with a slightly different name or a slightly different focus.
Exactly. And they found that some groups would even change their names
Oh, wow.
to capitalize on trending topics.
Interesting.
And they often use these sophisticated targeting techniques,
Uh-huh.
leveraging Facebook's algorithms to reach people who are most likely to be swayed by their messages.
Okay, so we've got individuals.
Potentially foreign actors
Right.
using algorithms to spread misinformation through these fake groups.
Mm-hmm.
What does Meta have to say about all of this?
Well, in a statement to Channel News Asia,
Okay.
a Meta spokesperson said that protecting the election is a top priority
Uh-huh.
and that they're enforcing policies against content that violates their rules.
But isn't this whole bait and switch strategy
Yeah.
a direct violation of their policies?
It does seem to contradict their stated goals.
Yeah,
Meta claims to be taking election interference seriously,
right.
but these groups are clearly engaging in inauthentic behavior
Yeah,
and complex deception,
right.
which are both against their rules.
So is Meta doing enough to combat these tactics?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And the study authors raise a valid point.
What's that?
Meta shutting down its research tool, CrowdTangle,
Uh-huh.
makes it much harder to get a handle on the true scale of this problem.
So they're saying they're protecting elections, but they're also making it harder to track what's going on.
They've made it more difficult for independent researchers to hold them accountable.
So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the challenges we face in combating misinformation in the digital age.
This is already a lot to unpack, and we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right?
Let's take a closer look at some of the examples of deceptive content uncovered in this study.
Sounds good. You know that post with the photo of the woman darkening her skin?
Yeah. Yeah.
That wasn't just some random meme.
Oh, okay.
It was designed to tap into and reinforce these racist stereotypes about Kamala Harris.
Uh-huh.
The caption echoed Trump's rhetoric.
Oh, wow.
Which, further legitimized those false claims.
Yeah, it's wild how they use humor as a tool to spread these ideas.
Yeah.
Like, you chuckle at the image, but the message sticks with you, and it normalizes the stereotypes.
Yeah, they're sneaking in these ideas.
Under the guise of shared political beliefs.
Exactly.
It's even more insidious.
Yeah.
Because it's happening in a group that claims to support Harris.
Right.
Members might see that and think, well, if other Harris supporters are sharing this, maybe it's not that bad.
Right. It's really messed up.
Yeah.
And what about that Democratic Voices group that was pushing the pro-Trump agenda?
That's a perfect example of how these groups use deception to gain access to an audience that would otherwise be resistant to their message. Like if you're a Democrat looking for like-minded people, you might join a group called Democratic Voices without even thinking about it.
Yeah, and then bam, you're suddenly being fed content.
Right.
That supports the candidate you oppose.
Exactly.
Talk about manipulative.
It's like a digital house of mirrors.
Yeah.
You think you're going one way, but they're using these tricks to steer you in a different direction. Totally.
And there's another layer to this, too.
Okay.
The study highlights how these groups can change over time. Some of them weren't even originally created to spread misinformation.
Right.
They might have started as genuine fan pages or discussion groups, but then shifted focus.
Wow.
As the admins realized they could exploit their members.
So it's not always a deliberate bait and switch from the start.
Not necessarily.
It could be more gradual.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah, it makes it harder to detect. It could start with subtle changes in tone or content.
Okay.
And then over time, the group becomes a breeding ground for misinformation.
Wow. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, this isn't just limited to Facebook groups, right?
No, not at all.
These tactics are being used all over.
Think about YouTube channels that start with harmless content and then gradually shift to more extreme or misleading views. Or even like online quizzes that collect your data for targeted advertising. It's all part of the same playbook, using deceptive tactics to gain our trust and then exploit it.
It's a reminder that we need to be vigilant about the information we consume online.
Absolutely.
We can't just blindly trust anything we see, even if it comes from sources we think are credible.
Yeah. We need to be more discerning, more skeptical, more critical.
Especially in the digital age, right?
Especially in the digital age.
Where information spreads so rapidly.
Exactly.
So we've talked about what these bait and switch groups are, how they work, and the kind of deceptive content they spread. But what can we as everyday internet users actually do about it?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
It requires a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
It's about individual awareness, platform accountability, and maybe even some systemic changes. How we approach information online.
So, like, what do you mean by that?
We need to start thinking about online information.
Okay.
Like we think about food. We check the labels. We read reviews. We're careful about where we source our ingredients. We need to bring that same level of scrutiny to the digital world.
I know, it feels kind of overwhelming. Like we're constantly on defense against all these hidden tactics. Where do we even begin?
Well, I think the first thing is we need to sharpen our critical thinking skills. It's about training ourselves to question everything we see online.
Okay, so don't just hit that join button.
Exactly.
Just because a group sounds appealing.
Yeah, take a moment to pause.
Okay.
Do a little detective work.
Okay, so like what kind of things should we be looking for?
Look for inconsistencies.
Okay.
In the group's description.
Gotcha.
Check out the profiles of the admins.
Okay.
Pay attention to the tone.
So it's like we're digital detectives.
Yeah, exactly.
We're looking for clues.
Look for inconsistencies.
Okay.
Does the group's name align with the content?
Uh-huh.
Are the admins located in countries that make sense?
Right.
Are there a lot of posts pushing a particular agenda?
So if a group is claiming to support animal rights, and it's suddenly flooded with posts about a candidate,
exactly,
that's a red flag.
And a huge red flag.
Yeah.
And remember, you have the power to curate your own online experience.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to leave a group.
Right.
If you start to feel uncomfortable,
yeah,
your mental well-being
right,
and your ability to think critically are more important
than being part of any online community.
It's
a good reminder that we have more control than we think.
Absolutely.
We don't have to just be passive consumers of whatever these groups are throwing at us.
Exactly.
And beyond what we do individually, we need to hold these platforms accountable.
Absolutely.
So more than just saying, hey, we care about election integrity.
Right. It's about concrete steps.
Okay.
To identify and remove these bait-and-switch groups. Mm-hmm. They need to be more transparent.
Okay.
About how they're tackling this problem.
Right. And what about CrowdTangle?
Oh, yeah.
That research tool that Meta shut down.
Bringing back tools like that would be a huge step in the right direction.
Because then researchers could track this stuff.
Yeah, researchers and journalists would be able to expose these tactics.
It feels like we're at a crossroads.
Yeah.
Information is power.
It is.
But misinformation can be really dangerous.
Absolutely.
More we know about these groups,
the
better equipped we are to protect ourselves.
Exactly.
And this isn't just about politics, is it?
No, it's not just politics.
These tactics can be used to spread any kind of misinformation.
About health or nats?
Right.
Relationships?
Anything.
Anything.
Yeah, so be a savvy online consumer.
Right.
Don't take everything at face value.
Do your research.
Do your research.
Question things.
Question things.
Even if it comes from a source you trust.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
It's about thinking critically. Checking your sources.
Yeah.
Being aware of the potential for manipulation.
Because it's out there.
It's definitely out there.
And these groups, they thrive on our inattention.
Yeah, they rely on us. Blindly accepting information.
Right.
The more we question, the more we disrupt their ability to manipulate us.
And it all comes back to, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly.
That applies tenfold in the digital world.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.